Hey, tributes. Okay, no. That was bad. What is up, you guys, and welcome back to yet another video where Grace discusses things related to the Hunger Games, only now it's more relevant than ever because today we are going to, well, I am going to talk about my thoughts and feelings surrounding the new book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Now, we don't actually have the book yet. I just thought I would make that very clear. This is just more or less thoughts that I have before the book, and then eventually when we get the book and I read it, I'll probably do how I feel after reading the book. Right now, I'm basically just going off on the things that we know and things that, you know, have been said about the book or things that I've been told about the book. Basically, what this video is just me just putting my excitement and frustration, a little bit of frustration, somewhere where people can talk to me back about it. But anyways, with all that out of the way, let's just go ahead. Oh, this video will contain spoilers of certain things, so if you're someone that wants to go into this book without any knowledge, I suggest you don't watch this video. But anyways, let's start off with the first topic, and that is basically what this book is about, when it's coming, and how I feel about it. So the first thing that I wanted to say is this book is coming out on the 19th of May, and it's currently May 5th, so about 14 days from now the book will be, you know, available for people to buy. I pre-ordered it, so hopefully it gets here relatively soon after the date, because I'm gonna literally not be on any social media until I get that book and finish it. So bear with me, folks. But the first thing I wanted to kind of jump into is the title and the cover of the book. So the title is obviously The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the snake being President Snow. In my opinion, I feel like the songbird is the girl from District 12. Overall, I mean, yeah, the title's pretty long. It's 6 words. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's also very easy to just shorten into the Songbirds and Snakes or just the ballad. So I feel like when people kind of say, oh, it's such a long title, it's also not a long title at all. It's just how it be. The cover to me, honestly, is not the worst thing I've ever seen. At first I was kind of like, okay, but the more I see promotions and the more I have, been editing it, I actually genuinely really do like the color scheme. It kind of reminds me of the Slytherin house, and I imagine Snow as a Slytherin 100%. So when you put this green and gold, which reminds me of snakes and a Mockingjay pin because of gold and green as in snakes, and you put it next to these 3, which is obviously the Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, I think it blends in very well. I don't think there's anything really bad about it. I don't really like the Hunger Games font, but that's on all of the books. That's just my personal preference. I think it's an ugly font. The Waterstones UK edition has a really pretty font in their book, which I wish we would have gotten, but I digress. So there you have it. That's my opinion of the title and the cover. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is what this book is about. Obviously, this book is about President Snow. President Snow is the president of Panem. He is the leader. He's the one that is the whole shebang about it. This book takes place 64 years before Katniss's Games. It's the 10th Hunger Games. During this time period of Hunger Games, there isn't arenas like the one that we have seen in the movies and in the books with Katniss's Games. It's not as high tech. There are no force fields. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's held in like a Coliseum type of thing, and it's a very gladiator type of fighting. It's not like how we see it in Katniss's Games. So I'm actually really interested to see how that plays out and how eventually it got to be to where it is in the trilogy that we have. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. It's also the first year that they're introducing mentors in the game. And a mentor is someone who helps the tribute, speak during interviews. They help them with the chariots. They basically just tell them how to survive and ways to get sponsors to like them. In the 10th Hunger Games, which is one that we have now, Snow is going to be the mentor. And he is a student at the academy. He's a senior. And they're choosing from a pile of seniors, which is Snow and his, senior friends, and they get selected, or they get given, they get a tribute, and President Snow ends up getting, or it's Coriolanus, my bad, Coriolanus Snow gets the girl from District 12. In the little snippet of chapter 1 that Suzanne Collins read for us, we learned that President Snow is actually poor in this book. Although despite living in a very nice penthouse in the capital. So that's kind of interesting to kind of hear, I guess. But he is still the heir to this House of Snow. We also learned that Tigris is his cousin. If you don't know who Tigress is, or you don't remember who Tigress is, she was a stylist in the games. But otherwise, other than that, like, we don't really have any other information about the book. That's pretty much all we've been given so far. We have nothing about the District 12 girl, so I'm really interested to see who she is and stuff like that, but we'll get into that later. Towards the end of the video, I will kind of discuss stuff like that. But without further ado, let's jump into the next topic, which is, how are people feeling about this book? How am I feeling about this book? So this book was first announced back in June, but at that time, when it was June, obviously, we only got little hints of what the book was going to be about. We didn't get a title and we didn't get a cover. We also didn't know who it was going to be about. I just said that. It wasn't until October, when the New York Comic Con happened, that we learned more about what this book was actually going to be. We got a title, a cover, and we also learned who it was going to be about. And right away, when I was on Twitter, I immediately noticed there was a ton of negative feedback. And I can understand why there was so much negative feedback. A lot of people thought that this was kind of like a cash grab, especially with hints towards a movie that was going to be made of this book, and people overall just didn't really enjoy the fact it was about President Snow, which is totally understandable because, you know, he's not a good person. People were scared that it was going to be a story that redeemed him, and they were upset that it wasn't about somebody else, which is, again, obviously a very good reason and a valid reason to be upset. However, when I first heard about it, I was very excited. However, when I heard that it was about President Snow, I was slightly disappointed, but I wasn't going to allow that to diminish any of my excitement towards the book. Because I know this is a super unpopular opinion, and I don't mean to sound controversial here at all, but I personally really like President Snow. I think his character is super interesting, and I find him actually to be one of my favorite villains of like all time. Just because of the fact that he's a regular person, he doesn't have any kind of superpower, he's evil because he's messed up and he does evil and bad things. He's not evil because he has some sort of, you know, superpower, or he has the Force. He's just like this, just a person. But that all being said, that doesn't mean that I like President Snow. Like, if I saw him on the street, I'd punch him in the face, like straight up. I don't fancy him. I just really like his character, and I'm able to understand, I am aware that he's still a shitty person. So, you know, I like villains. I think they're interesting characters, and I think Suzanne Collins did a really good job with President Snow in the first 3 books, and because of that, I have a very great, you know, awesome, you know, I'm excited. When I heard that it was about President Snow, I immediately thought of all the possibilities that this could lead to in terms of world building. As someone who's been in this fandom for a very long time, I've been digging into lore related to the Hunger Games, and I've been, you know, digesting the books. I mean, literally look at my Hunger Games book. It is falling apart. The part where Clove does her speech just doesn't even exist. It just falls out of my book now. Like, I digest these books like it's my job to do so. So as someone who has done that for years, I could tell you everything and anything you need to know about the Hunger Games. But the thing that I've never really understood and completely gotten to like get a grasp of is what the Capitol life is like. When I write fan fiction, because I write fan fiction related to the Hunger Games, and I think of the Capitol, I have to go back and watch the movies because it helps me get a visual representation of how the Capitol is. Because although the books have some sort of, you know, they have some things related to the Capitol, it's not as much as I would hope. And I feel like if I see it, I can understand it better. And since Katniss doesn't really talk about the Capitol that much, she's mainly just discussing how she feels and the things that she does, it's hard for me to kind of grasp what that livelihood is like to live in the Capitol. How do the people live? Why were they raised to do what they are? Why is it that they don't understand what the bigger picture is, and that is that the fact that kids are being thrown into an arena to murder each other, like, and they're praising it, they're treating it like a sport. Like, how do people grow up in that kind of mentality? I want to learn about that. I want to know why Snow became who he was. You know, I think it's really interesting. And I know a lot of people don't find that interesting, and that's totally okay. However, going back to it being about President Snow and the world building of it all, with all that stuff being said, I don't know how I would feel if Suzanne Collins popped up and said, hey, here's a book about Finnick Odair, or Johanna Mason, or Haymitch Abernathy. Like I said, being in this fandom for years, you grow a very special connection to some of the characters that are in the story. And because of that, you go towards the fan fiction side of the fandom. And fan fiction is stories told by fans, us. They take characters that they really like and they throw them into different scenarios. Part of the reason why I enjoy this fandom so much is because of the fan fiction, is because of the ability that we just have like this abundance of characters that we know really nothing about, but we can take them as our own and create our own worlds for them. You know, we can make our own games for Megs. We can figure out how the careers, you know, train. We can create our own training academy. We can do whatever we want with Johanna and Gloss and Cashmere. Like, those characters, they don't have a lot to them. So we can take them from the stories based off of what we know and give them their own story ourselves. And I really like that. So while I am slightly disappointed that yes, the story is about President Snow, and yes, people don't like President Snow, and yes, he's a bad guy, and people don't really like bad guys because they think they're very because it's a very problematic thing to do, and people are very woke about it. I'm also glad it's about Snow because of the reasons I said before. And I feel like, you know, to others in this fandom who create fan fiction and fan art and fan edits and AUs, and they've grown a connection to some of the characters. Like, I personally really like Clove, and I know there were people complaining that we didn't get a story about Cato and Clove, and I'm like, there's literally thousands of fan fiction online that you can read about them, told by people who love these characters as just as much, or if not more, than Suzanne Collins, because they've taken it into their own hands to give them a story. You can go read those for free at any time you want. I do it all the time. I write them all the time. And that isn't like to like rail on people or anything. I'm just saying, for me, it's nice to see that we are getting a story about President Snow and not someone else, because it allows me to continue my creative freedom. I just like to be able to tell those kind of stories. I like to tell how Clove trained. I like to tell how Finnick got his trident in the arena. And, you know, that doesn't mean I'm totally opposed to the idea of a new book coming out about those characters, because I feel like personally I would read anything Suzanne put out. If she put out a book about Clove, I would eat it up and I would love it no matter what. Would I be disappointed? Yes, but I would buy it and I would have a fan club about it. I'd have a Facebook page about it. I would rave about it everywhere. But at the end of the day, I'm just glad that what we're getting is what we're getting. Content is content to me, so I'm happy. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that people were discussing on Twitter more than ever, and that is this new book a cash grab? Right off the bat, I'm just gonna say, no, I do not think this book or this movie is a cash grab by any means necessary. And that is because if Suzanne wanted to make money off of this, she would have done this so much earlier, when the fandom was thriving, she was popular, people were, you know, ripping Hunger Games merchandise off the racks, and people were freaking out about it, and there was wars on Twitter and online about it. She would have done it so much earlier if she wanted to make money, because people would have been really invested in it by then, and they would have continued to be invested in it. But since she's waited years after her trilogy has ended, and a couple of years after the movies have had time to, you know, settle in the dust, I don't think that this is her trying to make money in any way, shape, or form. But anyways, I think people think it's a cash grab because there's a movie. I can understand why someone would think, hey, they're making a movie out of this, that sounds like a cash grab. And while yes, it probably is, because I'm going to go spend my money on that sucker like there is no tomorrow, I don't care. I don't care if it's a cash grab. Take my money. The mere thought of sitting in a movie theater with some of my closest friends that I've made because of the series, Emily, you know, Joe, Amanda, Sun, Carla, like literally anyone that I've become friends with because of this series, sitting in a movie theater, the Pitas Buns group chat and I, sitting in a theater that we like rented out for this special occasion, and where you see the Mockingjay or whatever logo pop up on the screen, it literally almost could just like bring me to tears, because it takes me back to like the first time I saw the Hunger Games in the theater. So to think that there could be a movie, that there is gonna be a movie related to this book, it makes me just feel so happy, because I get to I get to re-experience that, but now I'm older and I can go do things on myself. I can spend my own money. I don't have to worry about my parents. I can camp out at a midnight premiere with my friends and just enjoy it like the way I wanted to when I was 13, 14, and 15 years old. A cash grab doesn't bother me at all. That's the end all be all. And I just went off on a tangent. My notes are right here and I just went off. So there's that. So let's backtrack and go back to what this book is about and discuss how I really truly feel about this book. On Instagram, I asked my Instagram followers to ask me questions, and although I only got 2 questions, they were very good questions. The first question is, am I worried that this story is going to try and make President Snow look like the good guy? And my answer to that is yes and no. My thing with Snow is that no matter what happens in this book, he's always going to be the bad guy. In my honest opinion, I think Suzanne Collins knows that too. I mean, have you read Mockingjay? However, I'm gonna get so much shit for this. I would not mind seeing a part of President Snow that is likable. There's an article that I don't have up with me, but I did digging before this video, and when the book first came out, there's an article that described President Snow, and while I don't think this is a good word to describe President Snow, they described him to be someone who is somewhat a hero. Yeah, maybe he does save the girl's life, and she ends up winning the games. And while yes, that is a good act of him to do, what comes after that? Why does he become the bad guy? Why does he want to be the president? Is it the fame that happens after the girl maybe wins the games? Is it the power that comes with winning? I mean, we don't know. And that's why I'm really interested to learn and to read this book, is because I want to know why President Snow became the way he was. I would not mind if at first I'm reading the book and I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I like this. And I can kind of, understand where Snow's coming from. But towards the end of the book, I know for a fact that Suzanne Collins has to do something, well, at least I hope she does something that turns it around and shows us, okay, wait, Snow's still the bad guy, and here's why, and here's how. Because I'm gonna read it and probably be like, oh, yeah, that was funny, President Snow, and then I'm gonna be like, but you killed a bunch of kids for no reason, you prostituted your victims, you killed the families, you're not a good guy. And well, yes, you're making me laugh right now, but like I said, if I saw you on the streets and your ass is done, I don't need your opinion. And that leads on to my next question that I was given by someone, and that is, what are my thoughts of the District 12 girl? How old do I think she is, or how old do I want her to be? This is a good question, because I have no freaking idea. I hope in some way she is older than Katniss. And the reason why I say that is because I just think it'd be interesting to have someone that is 18 in the books, or 18 in the games, because Gale was 18 and his name was in there 44 times, or 48, I don't remember, something in the 40s. But I just think it'd be interesting to have someone older and not someone younger. Because Katniss was 16 when she was in the games. I wouldn't mind her being Katniss's age, but I also like her older, but I also wouldn't mind her being Prim's age. So, but this leads me into my next topic that a lot of people are going to hate me for, and that is the romance. The idea of romance in the book, it doesn't really bother me. I love a good enemies to lovers trope, okay? I'm a Reylo fan. I love enemies to lovers, Balark. Give me that content. I love that. However, I can see why people straight up absolutely despise it and they don't want anything to do with it. They don't want any romance in the book, and that is 100% completely valid. Snow is a shitty person. However, if you think about it long and hard, you have to understand and realize that President Snow has a granddaughter. It means at some point in time he had to have a daughter or a son that would later give him grandchildren. While I know the possibility of the District 12 girl being the romantic lover. It doesn't appeal to everyone. I also wouldn't mind if it is her, because District 12 does have a female victor in the 74th games that Katniss says is no longer with them. When I first heard that there's going to be, you know, any sort of correlation with District 12 and President Snow, I instantly was like, it's the girl from 12, it's the victor from 12. I was like, big brain time, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I don't really mind the romance. Like, I know people don't like it, but I don't mind it. However, if the girl's younger, if she's any age below 17 or 17 at all, canceled. I don't support that. I mean, 17, I don't really see that as a huge issue, but still he's an adult and she's still a minor at that age. So like, I'm not gonna get into it, but I hope you know what I mean, okay? Period. The reason why I wouldn't mind a romance, other than him having a granddaughter, is because, in my eyes, it ties in really well with the Katniss and Peeta stuff. Yes, I know, you can cancel me, you can call me controversial, you can do whatever you please. I don't care. I'm going to speak my opinion freely. I think that it would be cool to have that be the romance, because it would give a little bit of a correlation to why President Snow disliked the whole thing that Katniss and Peeta did, and why President Snow was so cemented on making sure that Katniss convinced him that it was real, that what she felt for Peeta was real and it wasn't just a show. And in my head, when I think of that, I think it's because, like, he's saying, convince me, because I know what it's like to fall in love with someone like that. I know how it feels. I know what it looks like when you don't want someone to die in the games, because I've experienced it. And I know that's like so messed up on so many levels, but it kind of makes sense, you know, like kind of makes sense, especially because Katniss is from District 12. So when a girl from District 12 starts, you know, a rebellion and she says she's in love with this guy and it just pisses Snow off, I'm just saying. On top of all of that, some little quick on things that I have in terms of notes is going back to Tigress being his cousin. If you don't remember, or, you know, like I said before, if you don't remember Tigress or know who she is, she was one of the stylists in the games, and eventually she's no longer a stylist because President Snow didn't find her pretty enough. And honestly, a lot of people were kind of upset about Tigress being his cousin, because they're like, oh, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But in a way, I think I kind of like it, because Tigress being a stylist could have so many fun things to do with the story. It'd be super interesting to see how Tigress correlates with the story. Like, does she become the stylist for the girl from District 12? Does she help President Snow with the girl? Does she style her? You know, what's the motive behind Tigress being the cousin? Anything with Tigress, I'm really curious to see how it plays out. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is, will this book flop? Lately, with everything that's been going on, I've been worrying that this book is going to flop. I know regardless I'm going to love this book. Like, literally anything Suzanne Collins does, like I said, I'm going to love. But I just hope that other people love it as much, for them to continue on with what they have planned, like the movies and, you know, future of anything related to the Hunger Games. So I mean, I don't know. Like, Suzanne Collins' writing is good. It's not the best. Like, it's not like she's like this extravagant writer. It's not her writing that draws people in. It's the characters. It's the storytelling. So yeah, that's that. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the movie, because of course, how couldn't I? I'm so excited. I cannot wait to get a movie. Oh my god. I've only considered one person, like, wholeheartedly really want to be President Snow, and this is all thanks to Carla, who may or may not be watching this video. If you are, hello Carla, and also hello Peeta's Buns, because I know y'all in here too. George McKay. George McKay for President Snow 2020. If you haven't watched 1917, George McKay is the lead role in that, and he is so good. I would literally kill for him to play President Snow. I've done fan arts of him as President Snow. I'll post it right here. Also, I'll post the George McKay for President Snow 2020 video, or picture right here as well. Period. Anyways, with all of that being said, I don't know if I did a very good job talking about this. I kind of rambled. I tried to do, like, I looked at my notes over here. I don't want to move my camera, but I'll just move my laptop. But I literally have a PowerPoint presentation of my notes to talk about this book. Like, I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing. I just hope I did a decent enough job to kind of understand how I'm feeling about this book. Like, I'm so excited for this book. Like, I genuinely just like cannot wait any longer. Like, I just want the book in my hands. I'm just so happy that in the year 2020, Suzanne Collins decided to say, I'm going to feed the rats on schedule. Not on schedule, but I'm going to feed the rats. And she graced us with stuff, and I know that no matter what, even if this book does flop, I'm going to support her. And I'm just happy to see the Hunger Games fandom like coming to life. A lot of the people my age are, you know, reactivating their old Instagram accounts and making new edits. I know there's been a couple of Instagram that I've talked to a couple of times that are super awesome. One of them actually asked me a question in this video, and it's like, it's so nice to see people my age coming back into this fandom, because as much as I love new fans, it's so nice to have people that understand how it feels to have waited for so long and to just have that like moment of like fresh air, like, oh, like, yes, like this is what we deserve, like we are just living it. So period. I'm rambling. I'm gonna end this video. I would be happy to discuss any opinions that you may have about this book. Are you excited? Are you disappointed? Thoughts on the future of the movie? Please keep all opinions respectful in the comments below. But I am going to hop off now. So if you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated, but that's completely up to you. For more content where I talk, play games, or literally do whatever I want, you can also subscribe if you would like, but that's, once again, up to you. I will also leave links down below in the description for you guys to pre-order The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I will leave the Target one with an exclusive poster. I will leave the Barnes & Noble one with an exclusive interview, and I will also leave the Waterstones one with an exclusively very pretty cover that I really want and will eventually buy. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Peace out, y'all. Period.